welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It is an absolutely beautiful day. I'm telling you, I don't know that I could create a better day than there is today on my own, just with the weather and the temperature and everything. It's hovering around 60 degrees, just a slight breeze. And I like it when it's cool like that because we can work out in the yard and not get super hot and sweaty. It's just cool enough with the light breeze that it's just perfect for out doing some work outside. Just look at this sky. I don't know how well it's going to come in on the camera, but let me try to point up. There is not a cloud in the sky. I don't know how well you saw that, but the skies are just perfectly blue. There's not a cloud in it. It's nice and quiet. It's beautiful. And so what we're doing is kind of like a spring cleanup around the outside, cleaning up the yard, doing some mowing, working in the garden, moving things around. For those of you that have little farms, you know how it is, especially during the winter times. You know, you got to get things moved around, and then things that are, as grass starts growing, weeds start popping up around stuff. So we're moving, trimming, mowing, getting garden stuff ready. It's a good day. I mean, it's a wonderful spring cleanup, and this is one of the more enjoyable types of work, I think, that are on a homestead, of doing this kind of stuff and getting ready. We've already got some things planted in the garden, and we're getting ready to plant other things in the next couple of weeks, week to 2 weeks, depending on what it is. And then it's garden season. Which is one of my favorite things. I love working in the garden. It's just a joy for me. And that's something that you all need to be working on too. Many of you are, and I talk about growing food all the time, and that is critically important with all the stuff that's going on. And so as I'm doing this today, and I'm thinking about the projects that we're working on and the things coming up soon, and that it's kind of like a spring cleanup for the outside. I also think about how that's what we need in our government. That's what we need in this country, is a spring cleanup. It's awful, the things that are happening. And I know here I am already hitting to the negative, but I'm telling you folks, I sit back and I think of these things on my own, and then my wife and I, we have these conversations of what's the end goal. Where is this all going to end? Of course, many of us believe that we could be living in the end of times, the last days, and maybe we're getting closer to that day that the Father comes back for us children, but we don't know that for certain. And so if that doesn't happen soon, where does this all end? Are we looking at a complete collapse of society? America just collapsing down like in some kind of dystopian movie, to where there's very little, if any, government, and every man for himself, and it becomes some kind of wasteland of a country? Are we going to see America become basically like communist Russia and communist China? Probably more like a communist China, where there's probably semblances of a free market being controlled by a very socialist, Marxist government? Or are we going to see the people finally say we've had enough and rise up against that? To be honest with you, my opinion is that's probably the least likely scenario, the last one there. Although it's probably the one that I want the most, at least to try to salvage what we have, and to try to pass on to our children and our grandchildren something that our forefathers fought and died for. And I struggle in my own self of, what are my plans for us, for me, and for us for the future? Is it just to hunker down and continue, preparing and being more self-sufficient and building kind of our own little community in this area so that we can all work together and kind of survive what's coming? Or at some point, do we take those steps to actually push back? And I honestly can't tell you the right answer. I think the right answer is different for every person. But things need to be cleaned out. I mean, I don't know how better to put it so that I can at least bypass possibly the YouTube censors. Remember, I don't know if some of you, or there's a lot of new viewers, I think, on the channel, but just a few weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, I made a comment that the progressive socialist Marxists, they have no intention of ever allowing that pendulum of politics to swing back to the more conservative side. They have gained power, at least in two branches of government, and they're dead set on changing everything and pushing and shoving their agenda through to where, this thing of, oh, we'll get our guy elected in 2 years and in 4 years, and it'll swing back and we'll gain control and we'll fix all this damage they've done. They have no intention of that ever happening. Look at the stuff that they're talking about, making D.C. a state, Washington, D.C. a state. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. If they want to take the non-government part of Washington, D.C. and do something with it and separate it from the District of Columbia, then give it back to the state of Maryland and where it came from. Why make a city, and certainly not the biggest city in the country, why make it a state? That's weird and silly. And the obvious only reason that they're doing it is so that they can add a few more representatives in Congress that's going to obviously be Democrat because it's such a liberal city. The same thing with this stacking the court. They've been talking about that. Pelosi saying, well, she wants to wait for Joe Biden's his commission on whether or not this is a good idea. She wants to wait on that before pushing the bill through. But it's obviously something that they're wanting to do. They're wanting to add 4 more justices to the Supreme Court and get Biden to appoint those. And of course, they're going to be very radically left judges. And it will change the Supreme Court for probably at least our lifetime, if not much longer. They have no plan of letting go. The Great Reset, it's in full force. There's no more talk about this is what they're wanting to do. These are the things they're wanting to implement. This is what they're hoping to get done. They're hoping to get this Great Reset going on. Well, it's already happening. From the administration itself, they've said that. We need to wake up and realize that and stop saying, well, things aren't that bad. Things aren't that bad. I get comments here on, oh, you talk about how bad things are. Well, the economy's actually perking up and doing good. Look at the stock market. Oh, man, you better invest in the stock market because it's going up. You know why the stock market's going up? It's not because the economy's good. Number one, the stock market has never, ever been a gauge on whether or not the economy's doing good. The stock market is going up because the dollar's going down. That's right. We have inflated our dollar so much that it causes the value of these stocks to be increased, just like when you go buy a 2x4 and you're paying 2 and 3 times that, and gasoline's up and everything, the price has increased. And so has stocks. It doesn't mean that you have more wealth. It just means you have more dollars to buy the stuff that's been increased in price. So you have the stock and the prices have gone up, and so you take the dividends, they take the profits from all that stock, and now, wow, I've got a lot more money than I did before. And then you go use it to buy something, and guess what? The stuff you go in to buy, the price of all that's gone up too. And so you really are left with about the same amount of money. Sure, the wealthy are getting richer, but that's always the case. It's the stock market is for the elites. Okay, it's for them to make money. Us little guys can sometimes make money, but not to the level of these elites, the billionaires and stuff. That's what it's for. And it cracks me up that people say, things are looking great. Look at that. No, they're not. The shortages, and not just the shortages, but the the delays in the supply chain and just the fact that I think a lot of it is that they're using it as an excuse to increase prices on stuff. And then there obviously is inflation. I mentioned a couple of days ago that they announced that the inflation rate has increased by about 50% just in the past month, in the past 30 days. And that inflation rate that the government, the Fed says, I think it's very much lower than what it actually is. I'd say it's probably several percentage points higher. In fact, some estimates, because their estimate is that it's now at 2.6%. Some estimates put it at anywhere between 9 and 14%. And I'd say that's probably much more accurate, especially when you look at individual items, the inflation of individual items. They're almost everything is in double digits. When you look at individual commodities, the inflation of them. So we do need a spring cleanup. We need a big cleanup. And I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if it's possible to happen. I don't know if there's enough people left in this world that's willing to stand up and take that risk. Our founders did 250 years ago. They pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor for something that they may not attain. And they knew that, and many of them lost everything. Many of the signers of the Constitution suffered great financial loss, and they also suffered physical loss, and they suffered losses in their families because of what they did. But it was worth it to them because they knew what they were doing was establishing something better than this world had ever seen. And here we are today, complaining about it. A lot of people complain. If you added up all the people in this country that really are disgruntled with the way things are going, I would definitely say it's the majority of the nation. But how many of them are willing to walk away from their TVs and their easy chairs and their air conditioners and their good paying jobs and their retirement plans and their pensions and their nice houses and all that, and give it all up or risk giving it all up, including their own lives, to establish liberty once again in this nation and fortify it for their future children and grandchildren? I don't think it's very much. I don't think there's very many that would do that. And even the ones that talk big, sometimes I question that. So what do? We continue to prepare. We continue to do the things that I talk about in nearly every video. Get yourself more self-sufficient. Build your skills, build your equipment and the knowledge and the tools and everything that you need to be more self-sufficient, and try to have a positive outlook on it, and hope that things will change and that this path is not as certain as it seems. But I think that while we're doing that, it would be foolish to not plan for if this path is as certain as it seems. And that's something that we must do, I feel. We've got to prepare ourselves, think about it mentally, psychologically prepare ourselves that in our time we could easily see one of the three scenarios that I mentioned in the beginning. An absolute collapse of society, this nation go full-blown absolute control at a socialist Marxist level, global level, or we could see the people finally rise up and resist all of this. Because something has to give. I cannot believe in my heart that people are just going to sit by and just let it happen and give up that easily. Maybe I'm too optimistic. Usually I'm not the most optimistic person, but I still have some optimism left when it comes to this. Certainly that there will be enough people that finally stand up against this. And we're just not seeing it. I'm seeing more resistance in other countries than we're seeing here in this nation. And it's a sad thing. The world has typically looked at America as being the most free and the country that stands against their government when they go too far. And here we are being one of the most complacent. So my advice, get your property ready, get your home ready, get your house in order, stock up, do all the things that I tell you to do when it comes to becoming more prepared, becoming more self-sufficient, and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, psychologically, for massive changes, because we're already going through incremental changes right now that are speeding up, hitting a very high rate of change. But I don't know that we've had any massive sudden changes, and they may not come that way. But when I say that, I mean where it's very definite that we know from this point on we are no longer what we were. Get ready for that, because things are changing, and there's I don't see that there's any way that we can maintain what we're doing and going the direction that we're doing and still just continue to be what we've always been. I mean, our morality is basically in the tank. Traditional values are gone. We're destroying the minds of young people. We're destroying the family unit. We're destroying biblical beliefs. Everything. We're destroying just the common decency that we have for each other, among the obvious political and economical things that we're doing. So anyways, I will tell you this video was absolutely not the one that I thought I was going to make. In fact, by the time I pushed start to record, I still had the thought of going in a different direction with this thought. But anyways, this is what you get today. We'll see how it works. Get ready for some spring cleaning. It needs to happen. And if you don't think that I'm speaking as forceful and as tough and everything as you want me to, remember, it is just YouTube. I've already said that kind of talk at this point, I'm only going to do face-to-face, because we have to be careful. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.